Situation in Belarus now is quite hard. Quite hard for political active people or for social active people, because nowadays the dictatorship is, we can consider that it is total dictatorship in each field, and nowadays almost everything is under state control, and the social situation is that people are really scared, and people are really scared to do something against dictatorship. Actually, our dictatorship, we can consider that it started nearly at 1995, so it is already 17 years, because our president came to power at 1994. And actually it was a long period of struggle between democratical powers and dictatorship. And actually dictatorship won, and how it happened, so it was a big struggle with the parliament, it was a big struggle with Supreme Court, a big struggle with Constitution Court, and actually Lukashenko and his surrounding, so they just force everybody to leave their positions, and actually they used physical power against people who was against them, and actually several people disappeared. It was in late 80s, and actually the last step, so he actually changed the constitution several times, at least 3 times, and last changes was about terms on which he can stay at a president position. So now he can stay and he can be a president as long as he wants. So actually it took him a lot of time to become to get this power. Nowadays he can just do everything he wants, and we don't have power, unfortunately. We don't have the power that can have good fight with them, have good struggle. I think the most successful actions that was in Belarus, they were quite famous, and they happened last year and in 2011. So actually it was not actions that opposition organized. The most popular actions were just usual people started. And first I can mention two types of that street actions. First was about clapping hands action, when people just came to main squares of the cities, and without any placards, without any flags, and without any symbols, and they just stayed at the squares and they were just clapping the hands. And so it was the main street action, and it was during the summer, and actually they was very famous from the beginning and very successful from the beginning. On the first action it came about 100 people, next time it was 500 people, and so it was each Wednesday. The action took each Wednesday at 6 o'clock, and next time it was already thousands of people, and authorities didn't know what to do with that, but at least they decided that they should use the power, and actually they decided to use the power not in a legislation way. They actually decided to use our special forces and our police. They just they didn't took their uniform. They were wearing just usual clothes.
Civilian.
Yeah, they were like usual civil people, and they just beat it that people who were clapping their hands, and they just beat them and put them in buses without any numbers, so nobody knew what will happen with that people, and actually at least they got, so actually they were judged in a court, and they got some short terms, and some people lost their jobs, and some students lost their university places, and so at least it was a big confrontation, but authorities had a big power, and these street actions couldn't succeed in the way that they couldn't change the situation in political levels. They didn't have like some program what should be changed in the country. That's why at the end people were just afraid of going to the streets, because it was really dangerous, and at least it were less and less people who were attending such events. So unfortunately we didn't succeed, but on some level I should say that our authorities understood that actually mostly it was young people who were attending such events, and actually our authorities give more money for students, and actually they made free transportation in Minsk for students, and I think it's connecting to these street actions, because our authorities understood that they should give something to people, because they're really really angry about the economical situation, because it was a huge crisis, and on some level I could say that they succeed, because actually from this year, from September, students will not have free transportation now, because, and I think because we don't have such actions now. Another action what was interesting and what was successful, quite successful, it was street actions in a car. So drivers just took their cars and they were driving the main streets, and they just stopped in the main street, and was just looked like they're fixing something in their car, like the car is broken. And actually, and these actions were connected with high prices for oil, because it also was connected with economical crisis and high prices. And the main action were, I don't know, maybe a couple of thousand cars just came in the city centers in the capital, and they just stopped this center because it was rush hour, and so everybody feels that there are a lot of protests, and not only people in the car were at that action, it was a lot of people just without the car, and also authorities afraid of that, and they also at the end, so we didn't have just one action, it was several such actions. And what was wrong, the authorities also decided to use the power. They just beated the drivers, and just some guys sitting in the car and just moved the car from the road. So at the end it also started very dangerous to just behave yourself like they behave, just because everybody of course understood that it could not be so many people who just broke their cars. And yeah, it also was connected with your job and universities. It's easy to lose these opportunities. That's why, and they also didn't have some program. It was just usual protest action. Yeah, but actually the prices on some time they just stopped. On some time, and actually for a long time, and on this level I also think that it's some kind of success, because people just understand that if we're making some protest actions, we can just force authorities to do something with that, because if we do nothing, we just getting nothing, because so the prices are increasing and the problems are still we still have the problem. So it shows to people that actually if you are active, you can achieve something. So if we want to talk about better future for Belarus, I think it should be a huge unification of Belarusian oppositional forces. So we have two opportunities: or unite everybody, or just create some new power who can be really popular and so on. So we should have a good organizers on that way. And another thing that it could not be possible without some support from abroad, because it's quite hard to get any money, would say money, because actually you need that for your activities, and you also need some other stuff, because in our country it's almost impossible to have some equipment like printing equipment. It's actually under state control. If you have equipment that can make a big amount of leaflets and so on, so you should register that. And from this side we need some kind of international support, and from my point of view it should be a huge international support, because if we take a look to in other countries where the revolution has been taken, like Ukraine, Georgia, Arab countries, you will see that they got a lot of money from abroad. Unfortunately, that is so. So inside Belarus, the resources that opposition has and authorities has, you cannot. So there are so big difference between them. So it's almost impossible to do anything with that, because we have about 150,000 of police. We have a lot of special forces. Our authorities has a lot of power. They have media, they have TV, radio, newspapers, they have internet, and actually internet nowadays is under big control. And it's quite hard to do something for not a big amount of people to change the situation. It should be so. It's not impossible. So first of all, it should be a big resource base with opposition, and if it will have it, and of course it should be also a good leader, the brave and great people, not only one but a lot of them, and so that's the only way. And it's a part of our way, because so as I mentioned already, the question is about population, that people doesn't understand what democracy is. So first of all, so it's just a lot of steps that should be done before getting democracy. First of all, so people should get more high education in a political way, and political forces, they should achieve another way, a bit higher way, and we should get a bit more international support. So when everything will, so the puzzle will be done, so everything will be okay. So we need a lot of things to do, and unfortunately I don't see nowadays that something going in good direction. That's why unfortunately probably in nearest years, 1 or 2 years, nothing can be done. But maybe during next elections, when we'll have president election campaign, so some of these puzzles can become closer, and something can be changed. So that is the opportunity for us, just to be united with others, and to work hard with population, and to get more international support.